Okay, we're live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a very special guest. His name is Chris Hampton. He's interviewed me about 9/11, and I am turning it back on him and interviewing him about his film, the title of which is 9/11 Alchemy, as we're coming on to September 1st right now. So the 20-year anniversary of September 11th is 10 days away. So I think it would be very apropos and timely to interview him about his 3-hour, very thorough documentary. So Chris Hampton of WolfClanMedia, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the great introduction.
Awesome. Well, thanks for agreeing to the interview. For people who may not know your background, can you talk about WolfClanMedia and some of your other projects, and then lead into 9/11 Alchemy, please?
Absolutely. WolfClanMedia really, to be honest with you, started the name at least started as kind of just a media thing, hip hop and doing music videos because I'm a videographer. And prior to that, I went to school for audio and was an audio engineer. So I worked in Burbank, California at a film studio doing post-production for film. And during that time, I kind of started having a little bit of what I call an awakening of what's really going on in the world, and especially what's going on in Hollywood in the entertainment industry. But prior to that, I'd already kind of had, in the back of my mind, some issues with government corruption, obviously cover-ups and false flag operations such as 9/11. These were things I'd already been looking at since about the age 15. And kind of, again, like everybody else, part of the middle class, just trying to go on with life and do what I got to do, family and work.
Day-to-day stuff. How old were you when 9/11 happened then?
I was 11 years old when I saw the...
do you remember what you saw? Do you remember the sequence of events, like where you were and stuff?
Absolutely.
Can you retell that?
Yeah, I was 10 or 11 years old. I was sitting in the living room. Actually, first I heard my dad screaming, and I came out of my bedroom and walked into the living room, and he's yelling at the TV. Same thing you've heard in many of the footage, and a lot of the footage, just, screaming in disbelief. And I looked at the TV, and of course the hole was already in the North Tower, and I was watching. And for me, it already immediately felt like some type of, film, some type of something. So I didn't really understand why someone was so upset. This is something I've seen in Independence Day and movies. So it looked almost normal. It's supposed to be on television, right? And then the plane comes in and it goes through behind the tower. And again, to me, it just was like something out of Star Wars. It was just it just didn't make sense to me. And even as a kid, I really questioned what I was seeing there.
So then your kind of life goes on. Then how did you kind of get into kind of conspiratorial, parapolitical stuff? Were you on the internet, or were there websites, or what kind of led you down that kind of rabbit hole?
Yeah, it's a strange story, and it has multiple layers. In 2004, the film In Plain Sight came out. And so that really is what led me into really investigating 9/11. Dave Von Kleist.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I realize now that there's a lot of problems with that film, and obviously because of that film, it's kind of inspired me to do my film, which we can get into later. But that did get me into investigating, the planes, because as I said, I already kind of in the back of my mind had a problem with what I saw. And so over the couple of years, 2003, 2004, I was already, questioning a lot of things, asking my teachers in school, why are we in Afghanistan? And, when they had nothing to do with this, and you would get these answers about oil and things. It was always the same. And it seemed to be a shrug of the shoulders, like it was just okay to invade these countries. And then really what got me into 9/11 was that film. And I followed that film. But what's so strange about it is then you find the truth movement, which comes a couple of years later, 2006, 2007, 2008. You got architects and engineers, the scholars, and I started following
scholars for 9/11 truth, right?
Absolutely. And I really was a follower. I really followed these people. I would donate and I'd believe things they would say. And of course, the government story, the 10,000 page NIST report that came out just didn't make any sense. And the things they were saying, was another story. So I was following this for a long time. And if we fast forward to 2016, like you said, I'm moving on with life. I started wanting to do a film because I was in filmmaking. And again, I was following the truth movement. So I thought, what a good idea to make a 9/11 documentary. And I was really unknowingly making a disinformation film and didn't even know it. You know, I was gathering all this stuff that was so easily accessible. And it was just a revelation where my father asked me one day what I thought actually brought the towers down, and we were watching a video and thinking about that, just using critical thinking. I said, you know, maybe it's something, you know, totally classified that, you know, we just don't know about. And he said that he'd heard something about a Tesla oscillator and Nikola Tesla with this oscillating and being able to bring down a building with an oscillator and things like this. And that Google search turned me on to a whole new area of the internet I didn't even know existed. And it made me realize that while following the truth movement, I'd forgotten that I really didn't truly believe the plane story, but this was not allowed to be discussed on their websites. This was a no-no. This was taboo. This was not credited, you know, good scholarly 9/11 research. If you were talking about no planes, you're on the fringe. And I realized that I'd almost conformed to change my beliefs. Some people watching may be familiar with the Ash conformity experiment, where, you know, you change your beliefs, you change your reality. So that changed everything. And I started realizing that the truth movement was actually censoring information. They were censoring what looked to be evidence of classified high technology. And I think, honestly, William, you put it the best. I think your description of 9/11 is one of the best I've ever heard. And it was in your film. And it was 9/11 was an example of the highest technology influenced ceremonial magic. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I mean, something was going on strange that I don't think people know, but there's weird energies. And actually, like you show right there, that hurricane that was off of the coast, like it's almost like there's superpower thing. Like that is so fortunate for that event to have that hurricane, because it sucked up all the air and made the today in New York perfectly clear, right? So it's like a perfectly clear. And some people have said that even like some of the hurricanes under the Bush administration, if you remember, they like changed course and things. Very
Absolutely.
strange. So they had fuzzy action or something. But yeah, I mean, you and I had talked before. We talked, and you have Clark in your film, but his third law was anything that is expression of high technology is indistinguishable from magic. I think it was something. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
Any
there's
sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And you put that in your film as well. And I think that's one of that's the key to what we're trying to figure out what's going on here. And me and you discussed about how technology is far more advanced than
far more advanced. Well, we know there's a space program. There's like a space force in our military, but nobody knows what the components are. So there's definitely technology. There's probably a generation or two ahead of ours right now, which 9/11, you know, it's just an incredible event. Anyway, so getting back to your story. So your work is 3 hours long. When you say that you think you were putting out, your initial thing was a disinfo, can you relate to what facts that you were putting out you think were incorrect at that time?
Absolutely. It was the nanothermite story. This nanothermite story was put out almost immediately after the NIST official government story was put out. And I now am of the opinion that this was a cover story, a backup, and for people that were going to pick apart that official government story. And the main reason is because of what you just brought up right there, the hurricane. The hurricane, this seems to be a topic that no 9/11 truther wants to discuss. The truth movement does not want to talk about this hurricane, and they don't want to talk about the planes. Now, when we go back to me putting out disinformation about in regards to nanothermite, this story of nanothermite comes from a man named Stephen E. Jones. Now, you can go to Stephen E. Jones' Wikipedia page, and you can see that he worked for many military laboratories, including Los Alamos, which specializes in classified technology. And he was an insider for the Department of Energy in the 1980s when Pons and Fleischmann, scientists from University of Utah, discovered cold fusion. In the 80s, they applied for funding through the Department of Energy. Well, through that application, Stephen E. Jones was notified, and he was able to help to fabricate data to basically discredit these two scientists and totally debunk cold fusion. And even later that year, it was put into the Back to the Future film. So it's totally science fiction, right? Now, this guy becomes the head of the truth movement. He created basically the truth movement almost 30 years later. It's absolutely suspect.
It's crazy, right?
But for
cold
15 years,
cold fusion works, right? I mean, there is some kind of process that takes place between water. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they had to
There's
cover
so much
up.
evidence. And honestly, let's go ahead and be accurate here. There's muon catalyzed fusion, and there's the correct term is low energy nuclear reactions, LENR. And if you were to type in LENR on Google right now, you're going to find so much evidence all across the world, different countries, of cold fusion, of basically putting in less and getting out more energy. So this is not necessarily free energy, but it's extremely cheap, extremely clean energy.
Clean, right? Yeah. So that had to be. I mean, and there's always been battles against alternate energy sources, going back from gas to the gas companies. Rockefeller Diesel died mysteriously, by the way, who created the diesel engine. They have another guy who created a hydrogen car. He died. If you want to look at the history of the electric car that came out, that whole thing, there was a documentary about that. Somebody from the oil companies just came in and bought up every single one that they could and just and trashed them. So there's some serious issues around energy around this. But Stephen E. Jones, he is questionable. I mean, you're always getting shaped by a lot of these different. The NIST report was a joke, if I remember correctly. And that guy who ran that wasn't even an American. He was from like India or something like that, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So there really is a lot of questions with a lot of those so-called truth meetings. Yeah. And a lot of it was shaped. One thing that you can say is what has been the outcome of all those groups, honestly.
Well,
anything?
Maybe they've spread awareness to 9/11, maybe. But at the same time, they've helped to cover up advanced technology that could change the world for the better. I mean, it could end all war. If we're really looking at the implications, it's totally incredible. But as we know, the same people who built those towers the same year that 2001 movie was being made, the Rockefellers, they run this energy, and again, we say, okay, well, David Rockefeller's gone, so we've got the daughters, and we've got really now people who are running the Rockefeller tied back to the Gates Foundation, and we've got this whole new COVID thing going on, right? So we see the same players,
same characters, same front, same background. But the Rockefeller is incredibly powerful. So those two buildings were known as Nelson and David, right? When they were being built, it really was on Rockefeller land. The whole infrastructure is hyper occult. The spherical caryatid, 110 stories. I mean, 2 pillars. Boaz and Jashin. There's all kinds of references, and it goes on. Very sophisticated, I should add. Like very
much. And again, this is why I just felt so upset. Really, not so much because I donated to these groups and helped these nonprofit organizations become rich and famous, similar to the other evil nonprofit Rockefeller foundations, Clinton foundations. I realized these 9/11 truth groups were no different. They were doing the same thing, and really, it seemed that I'd been fooled. And again, it was not because I donated and followed. It was because I was working on a film and getting ready to push information that I now saw to be totally a cover up. And if we go back to like the energy thing, you have people like Stanley Meyer. So if you start going down there, Stanley Meyer developed the famous water-powered car, right? It sounds crazy, but these things existed. And he was taken out. I mean, he drove this dune buggy from one coast to the other coast on gallons of water. I mean, it's insane, converting to hydrogen fuel cells and things like this. So this stuff absolutely exists. And really, who's in my film and who was being covered up was Dr. Judy Wood. She wrote the book, Where Did the Towers Go? Where she outlines the evidence of directed free energy technology being used to make 2 buildings disappear within 8 to 12 seconds each. I mean, nothing can do that. And then no paper burns. There's no ionizing radiation.
Right. No, there's all good. She called it dustification, right? Wasn't that her
Right.
term?
Exactly.
Because that's it. I mean, these things they're not large clumps, and you can see the pictures of it right now. Something happened very unusual. And you almost don't see the element of like a blast. Like you don't see the black smoke or red flames or anything that's consistent with standard explosive charges or something.
I'm glad you said that. See, it's almost like people can't really see that. And again, me for 15 years, I couldn't see it. I thought that was an explosion. I would even urge people to, again, just to look at that and ask yourself, are you looking at a collapse? Are you looking at an explosion? I mean, it looks like that building is turning to dust.
Yeah, no. I mean, even you can go and see the site. It's incredible because even with the Twin Towers, when they fell, there should have been huge I mean, there were some and they affected other sides of the buildings, but there really wasn't like a rubble pile 40 stories or 50 stories tall.
No, like
30 stories it should have been, yeah.
And to your point, like you just said about the buildings, you would hear the Truth Movement. They still say this. 3 buildings were destroyed with 2 airplanes. And it's like, no, 7 buildings were destroyed with 2 airplanes. 7 buildings. There was a scooped out hole taken out of World Trade Center 6. And I think that the Truth Movement talks about World Trade Center 7 as this smoking gun, when actually World Trade Center 6 is the smoking gun. You can go to the Wikipedia page and you tell me what did that. Is it bombs? Is it plane debris? Is it it's the World Trade Center 6. And so again, all 7 buildings.
Yeah, no, there was something else going on. There's something much more important. I think Judy Wood has been maligned, if I remember correctly, but she's shown other pictures of like cars that aren't close to anything, just incinerated. There's all kinds of weird things that happened that day. And I think that her research, she talks about the hurricane too, right? Like the oddity of the hurricane,
Yeah, and that's the thing. My goal of my film was more about the airplanes, because finding.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the airplanes.
Okay, so finding her research really helped me to break out of this cognitive dissonance, and I realized that the Truth Movement was helping to cover up the airplanes. Now, when I did the film, there's multiple goals I set out to do, but one of the main ones was to prove that the videos were real. I started watching films like Simon Shack's September Clues and Ace Baker's Great American Psy Opera. And there's other films that have been made, again, like the
Loose Change,
which
there
is
was
the
another
first
guy,
internet blockbuster.
Right. But there was another guy, too, who did a really good movie. I can't remember what his name was.
The airplane, let me think. There's quite a few. Not nearly as many as there are about the destruction of the towers, but there are quite a few. And there's some good ones. And some of these are Netflix, again, internet blockbusters. You know, they're streaming on Amazon and Netflix, and they all have a theme. They're either promoting the idea of a fake plane composited in or CGI'd, or the idea of a reinforced, military plane, or something with something attached to the bottom, a pod.
Right.
Dylan Avery outright says you can see it shooting a missile right before it impacts. It's like, no, you can't.
Right.
But he says that. And then I realized, oh my gosh, these people are purposely ignoring something. Dylan Avery had a document from the Air Force 2025. That's the title of it. And here we are coming up on this year. On the cover, you have people with virtual reality glasses, holograms in the air. And he's talking about voice morphing technology in relation to this document and how the phone calls couldn't possibly have happened from the air, which I agree.
Right.
But he's using this document and he's talking about voice morphing. He talks about one section. He skips over a whole section of the document to discuss the voice morphing. And I realized the section he skipped over is all about illusion technology, stealth technology, holograms, if you will, which is an inappropriate, incorrect term to use. It is 3-dimensional volumetric ghost objects that appear to float in midair for psychological warfare. These are things that were discussed in 1999. I think even the Washington Post covered it, but it's been totally removed now. But again, Dylan Avery seemed to skip right over this and go on to talk about his pod theory. Now, to me, that's someone who had a theory and was looking for evidence to fit the theory rather than looking at evidence to develop a theory. And so I set out to show that these people must have done this on purpose. He couldn't have possibly skipped over that by accident. And there are other things with the other filmmakers that would show things that would say this is CGI when clearly they knew it wasn't and skipped over things. And as a video editor, I felt an obligation to speak out that this is not video fakery. We even got to the point where people were saying the jumpers were CGI.
Wow.
And
yeah, no, that's not true. They're falling, and there was pictures of them dead and reports of people saying there's actually I don't know if you've seen it, but the fire people were going through the bottom of the towers and you could hear the audio of the bodies dropping on
absolutely. And I don't believe any of it was CGI. I don't believe there was
okay, so you don't believe so you're not a no planer. You believe the planes are real.
I believe the videos are real and the planes are fake.
Gotcha. Planes are fake.
So I believe the planes were some sort of stealth technology, which I expand on more in the next film. But again, this seemed to be a common theme. The people, another great one is Ace Baker. He works for companies that actually did the 2008 hologram election thing on CNN. They beamed hologram into the CNN studios in 2008 for the election. This company, 9/11 Truther, works for him, and he's talking about CGI. So the whole no planer to me seemed to be a thing. I had to ask the question, which I'll ask now. Why would people purposely ignore things about illusion technology and stealth technology and promote the idea of CGI and video fakery? And if these people truly believe there were no planes in New York City that day and were able to make these blockbuster films, why would they not discuss that issue? And why would they also blame all these amateur videographers, just like myself? So there was a personal thing there of video fakery. They either had to be complicit in part of this government conspiracy, they're all Masons, or they were visited by the FBI on the day of 9/11. Their footage was snatched and then they were taken back and doctored. You know, it's
right. That's
so
pretty.
impossible.
Yeah, that's implausible. But wasn't there the two French brothers, the Naudet brothers, who filmed 11 hitting the building, and they're kind of why they were on site.
They're very suspicious. They were given access in 2015 to the CIA, every living director of the CIA. They made a documentary that's on Netflix. I do not believe the Naudet brothers were amateur videographers. So now you see I'm almost conflicting myself. So again, but these guys were French professional guys there to film, right? The firefighters. There's even a witness. There's even a witness down there who says these firefighters been out here all day, look like they're waiting for something, like they knew this was coming. That was on the day.
Yeah, and again, it's so suspicious. Yeah,
it's speculation, but it is suspicious. And why were these people, these two videographers, given access to the CIA? You know, decades later. So.
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, there's a lot of suspicious stuff. But so you think that the planes were not CGI, but were some form of stealth technology. Is that what you're saying?
I think we all witnessed an illusion in real time.
Okay. So how was that illusion created? Do you think but the towers were there and not there. So that was a real event.
Exactly.
Whatever.
And that's the thing. Again, that started becoming a thing with the vicsims. These victims are simulated CGI vicsims. And if you'll notice, me and you discussed, that's started to become a bit of a topic in these shootings, which we know are occult rituals. For the most part, these mass shootings that are happening are very much connected to the occult world and very much false flags. You can always find
some
these
of them,
numbers.
Yeah. Well, some of them go to MK Ultra. Some of those people are zapped out of their brains. Yeah,
zapped out of their brains, and
Sirhan is just getting out, and he was probably one of the first kind of
these lone nuts.
Lone nut.
And so again, why it begs the question: why would 9/11 truthers that are just like me and you, seeking the truth, start pushing the idea of vicsims, and then even to the point
I never took that seriously. Yeah, I just
and you would think, I wouldn't take that seriously, but
I believe all those truth movements were all infiltrated by assets of some sort or another. I would assume
Absolutely.
government asset. Yeah.
And all that stuff went viral. It is, if you look at the creation of the internet, it is right there with 9/11 conspiracy films. I mean, the rise of the internet and the rise of 9/11 conspiracy films go hand in hand.
Hand in hand,
they
yeah.
Really do.
No, they really do.
It's a strange world.
But I think that even some of the talking heads, pundits today, I wouldn't be. I mean, I don't want to get into the real name, but some of these people clearly are assets. They're Intel assets or Fed
Absolutely.
assets, and
Absolutely.
So anyway, so getting back to Alchemy. So I mean, your book, your documentary believes that some kind of alchemical change happened on 9/11, correct?
Well, the reason I called it Alchemy. Sorry. So the reason I called it Alchemy. The reason I called it Alchemy was really just a hunch. I'd started learning that transmutation took place. I'd started looking into John Hutchison, obviously because of Dr. Judy Wood's book, Where Did the Towers Go? And she compared the evidence of 9/11 at New York City to the experiments of John Hutchison. And John Hutchison as well has been totally ridiculed. And I noticed that they were both really getting ridiculed. The truth movement would say, space beams. And I actually think this is some type of like reverse psychology type of thing with the whole space beams, because again, we know that a space weapons program has existed since the Reagan era. It's been kept secret, and the Space Force is nothing new.
Right.
And again, we don't know the components of what's going on up there, but we can find evidence of particle beam weapons being tested in the 80s. 1989 Bear, which is the, what is it here? The beam aboard a rocket. So a particle beam weapon aboard a rocket was tested, proving that a directed energy weapon could be operated in space in 1989. Right. And so we have that evidence. Now, I'm of the opinion that the illusion technology we saw on September 11th was part of, in some way, almost the same type of mechanism or component of what destroyed the buildings. What created that plane-shaped silhouette, almost like a cartoon cutout of an airplane in both the towers and the hole in the ground in Shanksville. To me, this is all directed energy. Holograms or three-dimensional volumetric objects would be induced using things like laser, which is a form of directed energy. So to me, it is all directed energy. And what Dr. Judy Wood tries to show is that by studying this and understanding the destruction, at least the destruction part, then we can all as a collective really understand that free energy exists. We do not need to be operating our cars on gasoline and paying these bills to the Rockefeller, or let alone giving $30,000 to Elon Musk for his miracle electric vehicle for the luxurious rich upper class. But I really set out more to prove that this technology of this illusion exists and is more important than the rest of it. And I don't like really saying that it's more important, but to a degree it is, because once you uncover illusion technology, it's no longer a weapon. It can no longer be used against you. And what are the implications of that? I mean, you think about films and sci-fi films like Independence Day and the way that the White House was destroyed in Independence Day. Very similar, which by the way, which psychologically, I don't know what happened there, but the sales of that film statistically went through the roof the day after 9/11. Something someone pointed out to me and I verified, which is just so strange that people decided to go to Blockbuster and Hollywood Video right after in 2001 to go rent Independence Day. We saw something that day and we didn't understand what we saw.
Right. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
I mean, like you said, in your film, the highest technology influenced ceremonial magic. My new film is all about the occult aspects, which also seem to be totally ignored by the truth movement. None of them want to talk about Crowley. They don't want to talk about Crowley. You start bringing up numbers around these people and put them in the loony bin. Put a straitjacket on him. He's talking about the numbers. Or
me, yeah. I mean, I have no question. They would never invite me in anywhere into the 9/11 truth movement. When is your new documentary done? It's not done yet, is it?
It is basically done. It's being critiqued, peer reviewed, and it will be released on the anniversary. And I actually I've got your book featured in the new film.
Sweet.
So that'll be great.
Do you have a title? Do you have a title you can disclose?
The title is 9/11 Alchemy, A Big Idea. Either A Big Idea or The Big Idea. Which
it's a big idea. It sounds like something George Bush Sr. would say.
He did say it. He said it many times in
Okay.
relation to the New World Order, which you pointed out in your book and in your film. And he also talked about the law. Now, to me, this big idea is the New World Order. And I actually found some very, very strange cryptic clues from the media about this big idea.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So where will people be able to find that? On your website?
My website is wolfclanmedia.org.
WolfClan Media. I'm going to put it right in the show notes. Wolf. As long as this one, is it 3 hours long?
No, it will not be 3 hours long. I know the last one is very difficult for people to see, but it's important. I didn't want to leave anything out. I wanted to really, I wanted to address that plane issue. I wanted to vindicate all of the amateur videographers who I'd personally spoken with. Many of them do not want to be part of this. A lot of them had trouble getting jobs because you would look up this Jennifer Spell, for instance. You would look her up. Say you're an employer trying to hire her as a videographer, and you look her up, spellbinding fakery, the 9/11 hoax, things like this. And it had trouble getting jobs. I wanted to vindicate these amazing videographers who just captured something that they couldn't explain that day. And I really wanted to do that in a way that wasn't vindicating the mainstream media. And I've still to this day been accused of vindicating the mainstream media by promoting this hologram theory rather than the video fakery, because again, if any side of the truth movement were to talk about the planes, they're either going to say that the mainstream media basically put fake videos in there. And so by me debunking that, I'm debunking the mainstream media. But in no way am I doing that. They are so complicit. They didn't report the hurricane. And I would say, honestly, that they put out the truth movement's biggest talking points. Larry Silverstein came out and said, yeah, we were told to pull it. You think that was an accident that mainstream media ran that? No, absolutely not. That was so the truth movement could run with that for the next 20 years and keep all of us entangled in this arguing of what really happened. And I think the core about what me and you get to in this new film and in your book especially is, what is the end goal? What's the point? Let's not argue about all the physical, aspects of what actually happened, even though it's very important. What was the point of September 11th?
Right. What was the point?
Right. It's a big idea.
Well, it's a big idea. Here's the thing. It's been 20 years. We know what's happened. We just ended a 20-year war, longest war in our history in Afghanistan, invaded Iraq, put in the Patriot Act, huge surveillance state, pumping and dumping the entire economy from 2001 to 2008. Interest rates were zero. At the end, the whole economy was wrecked. I think that was obviously intentional. So the Wizard of Oz was pulling the strings the whole time for that whole event. And I mean, you can go into Bush at the, when he's talking to the kids. You ever see that video where the kids are chanting plane, building, die, it's incredible. Incredible stuff.
And again, there's been so much put out. I mean, that video was viral for a while there. And you had, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say there, we talked about a little bit about S.K. Bain, the author of another book. And I heard him recently talking about that same thing. And really that video was kind of put it all out. It went viral. And I think that a lot of that was in some cases, not even the words that we're saying, but nevertheless, it was a ritualistic thing we were looking at. Right. And he's reading the pet goat upside down. Now, again, what I love about your book is you go deep into Crowley's background, but then you really dive into how it ties into September 11th. And you don't really get hung up on all this nanothermite like other authors, again, that we've mentioned do. And so, and again, I'm not going to say everybody's a disinformation agent, because, again, I followed this truth movement for almost 15 years, for 10 years, nonsense. That was just a cover up. Again, they didn't want to, they had key words on their websites, on their forums, which was proven by a couple of researchers, things that couldn't be said: Zionist, Dr. Really? Judy Wood, no planes, holograms, things like this were words that as soon as they came up on the forum, they were flagged immediately. And so the truth movement was censoring from the beginning. And again, the occult aspects of this need to be discussed. And nobody really makes films or has made films really diving deep into this. I mean, there's been a few, you did a good job, and there's been a couple here and there, but not really films that are talking about what happened and how it ties into the occult aspects. Because again, this technology was influenced by the most occult people, and you outline that in your book very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad that, in my opinion, they've missed a lot of stuff. You can go back. I'm looking at conspiracydocumentaries.com. There's been on 9/11 25 documentaries. Ryan Dawson, all these characters that have been around, and nobody really wants to mention the 11. Nobody wants to mention all the Rockefeller stuff. I mean, that's really the core for me. That's really where you have to go to. So the fact that they're not doing it is, I mean, I have this way of, like, you ever hear of like the Overton window acceptable kind of discussions, like everybody wants to stay in that, and then the
like a consensus.
Right. So if you're out there, the people who want you to be inside that window mock, belittle you, whatever. But there's like a corollary to that, which is kind of like a sandbox where you don't ask too many questions. It's like an Overton sandbox where you stay in there and people want you to play in that sandbox. But if it's
and we're in that right now with this pandemic, are we not?
Yeah, no question. Absolutely no question. I talk to people all the time. There's a lot of problems there. A lot of problems with, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, one of the things that's obvious about the pandemic is that they should just go and test people to see if they have natural immunity. Then they don't have to worry about risking anything to do with vaccines. But they're just reshaping it all the time. You got to take your vaccine. You got to take your vaccine. You got to take your vaccine.
Yeah.
That should scare the crap out of people. I'm not taking the vaccine. No way. You could not put that thing in my body.
And
I'll take COVID.
Yeah, and I'm sure again we have the same thing here. We've got controlled opposition, and you cover-ups upon cover-ups upon cover-ups. We've got the China Wuhan story, which reinforces the idea that this is killing us and we're dropping dead, right? And it's dangerous and deadly. And then
you're scared to death, just like after 9/11, right? Just scare the living crap out of people. Terrorist Osama bin Laden could jump out of the bushes and kill you. So they're constantly putting the fear of death into
the anthrax. Right.
Anthrax can kill you. That should tell you a lot. The fact that they keep putting the fear of death into you.
And it's the same players. It's the same players. I think it's important to bring up the people who investigated 9/11 are members of the Directed Energy Professional Society. They are founding sponsors with Booz Allen Hamilton, Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, but in particular SAIC, which later called themselves Leidos. So they're now called Leidos. Leidos is the only, and honestly, I'm disclosing a little bit for something that I'm putting in my COVID documentary, but Leidos is the only private contractor that runs the Frederick National Laboratory. So we have a private contractor that investigated September 11th, being the only private contractor in the world to get national funding from the government to do cancer research. And so anytime you hear talk about the NIH and Fauci or the National Cancer Institute, you're actually hearing about the same people who investigated what happened on 9/11, a private military contractor who was given trillions for the war on terror. They're still...
Right. Here's another point. If you remember, Cheney said there's going to be a terrible dip in the national security payments, right? So they were dipping off because there were no crises. But then when 9/11 happened, they were flush with cash. Everybody got money, just like the medical cartel right now, right? I don't know if the medical cartel was really doing that.
Interesting point.
But the medical cartel is now flush with cash and dominating everybody and telling you what to do. But that's what happened after 9/11. So you can go back and look up Dick Cheney, and I think he called it the dip or cratering of the national security. And all those stocks, they all went from $5 stocks to $60 stocks because they were all full cash.
That's right. And then you had the insider trading and everything going on too.
Yeah. So 9/11 was probably the most beneficial thing that could have happened to the Bush administration imaginable. I mean, it played right into their hands. These so-called terrorists.
And that's the thing with when I started looking at it, Dr. Judy Wood shows that these people investigated 9/11. They didn't hire construction companies, they didn't hire demolition companies, to figure out how a building went down. They hired directed energy specialist, psychological warfare. And then I realized they not only work on that, but they work on three-dimensional illusion technology, stealth technology for the military. So when I saw that the same people who investigated 9/11 worked on this stealth technology, really that was another point of the film. I really needed to get that out there.
And where can people see 9/11 Alchemy?
It's available on my website, wolfclanmedia.org/911. And I believe you have a photo there of someone who I didn't actually create that. Someone re-uploaded it and made that. It's a great photo. It's a great photo. I think that was a friend, Math Easy Solutions. So I'm not able to put anything out on YouTube. So you have to go to my website basically to watch anything. But that's a great photo.
This is your cover?
That is the DVD. Yeah, that's the DVD.
Gotcha.
And then actually the cover I originally used, if you go to my website, has a really strange cloud going through the towers. I don't know if you've seen that. It's taken the night before, like 12 hours or so off of a boat. A guy who was spending the weekend out there, and you can find his website. But it is the strangest. I may be able to.
Here it is. So this is your site, and
so if you go up to the top to the 9/11 tab.
9/11.
That picture there at the very top.
Oh yeah, that's wild. Yeah,
that's the night before, just 12 hours before.
Wow.
And
there's
all
Judy
the films.
Wood.
That's the previous film. Everything's been banned on YouTube, so nothing can be watched on YouTube. I have an hour-long compilation of what I called 9/11 being predicted in Hollywood throughout the 90s.
Oh, nice.
A lot of other researchers who really didn't get credit because I didn't know where a lot of this stuff come from. But I mean, you have like Neo's Passport having the 2001
right, 9/11, right?
date.
It was also
Right.
in the Usual Suspect had a 9/11 in it,
Yeah.
if you remember, and then also Enemy of the State. Enemy of the State
had a couple of very strange ones, and I have that actually up on my website. And that's what's weird is, again, all these people make all these films about the truth, but a lot of them leave that kind of stuff out. So that's why the film's 3 hours long. It's hard to watch because it's so long. You need to take that time, but it is split up into 6 parts. Again, most of that's been censored now, but if I left any of that out, I wouldn't have felt like I've really done it justice. I really felt like I needed to include the plane issue, the destruction issue, the truth movement cover-up issue, and the Hollywood issue, and especially the occult stuff. I wanted to really get it all in there, and 3 hours was what it took.
I know. Well, here's the thing: is you probably could do 12 hours on 9/11. There's just so much information and so many things that happened, but it was a hyper sophisticated event.
And there are things that no one has ever discussed in that film. That's the reason it's really 3 hours. I mean, and I'm not trying to be overly, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. There are really things in there that no one has ever discussed. The energy effects at Shanksville and the Pentagon, the fact that iron microspheres were found instead of jet fuel in that dirt there. So that's only consistent with one other thing, and that is the phenomenon of crop circles, which we have no idea, why people are able to take microwave and radiation devices into these crop circles and pick up, energy effects.
Oh, interesting.
So
where can people see this? We're at 40 minutes. Where can people go see 9/11 Alchemy? The best way, can you stream it on your website?
Straight from my website. Okay, you can stream it straight from the 9/11 tab there that you were just on. Gotcha. Right at the top of the page, that's the film. It's 3 hours.
Gotcha.
If you pause it on the website and close out and go back to it later, you can start it up. So again, it's hard to watch. Watch it in parts. There's 30-minute sections in there.
But your new movie is also going to be on wolfclanmedia.org as well before the 9/11 of 2021. So within the next 10 days too, right?
I'm going to release it on the memorial, on the day. I'm going to release it on the morning. So that morning, everybody, I encourage you, don't go watch a propaganda film on Netflix. Spike Lee just put out some nonsense. Right. So just on the morning, don't watch these nonsense propaganda films. Go see my new film, which will be live on my website that morning. And it will be about half the length. It'll probably be about 90 minutes long.
Cool. And that title is 9/11, A Big Lie, right?
9/11 Alchemy, A Big Idea.
A Big Idea. That's right. 9/11 Alchemy, A Big Idea. And again, the researcher is Chris Hampton, and the website is wolfclanmedia.org. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you so much, William, and thank you for your book.
My pleasure. Take care.
Bye.
Are you still there? Hold on.